Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another Love Your Liver live stream. This is number 103. I am Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts. And welcome today. If you're new, very glad to have you. And if you're coming back for more, thanks for coming. Now let me find my chat. Okay, there we go. So I got the stream chat going. We are doing a new live streaming software, so bear with us. Joe is in the background of Joe Baker's Remedy Report helping me to run this, and we're going to see how it goes. So those of you who haven't seen, we did another extra live stream during the week, so that was fun, testing things out. And today, what are we going to get to? So just if there's problems with the live stream, if it's a quality of the video problem, we're working on that. We're trying to figure this out. We can only take, you can comment or chat. I'll see the chats if you're on Facebook or on YouTube. I think I can see them from Twitter, but I'm not sure about that. So anyway, so that's any of those three places you can find us. And then here we go. So there's a testimonial I wanted to go over first. I always like to do a testimonial first. And this is going to come out, I believe, on my Twitter today. It should come out on my Twitter today. And let me just read this. It'll be on my social media today, but let me read it. Dear Dr. Smith, let me start with a little info on my health history. I am a 35-year-old male, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 15. I went to the doctor for maybe 6 months after I was diagnosed and figured out very quickly they weren't helping me and I could do a better job myself. I have always been the type of person that doesn't want help from anyone else, and I just want to fix everything myself. Everyone told me that it was just genetics and that there's nothing I could have done to prevent it or cause it. We all know that's wrong, right? That answer never sat right with me. I ate terribly as a kid, lots of processed dairy, white bread, sugary cereal, and baked goods. I was pretty dang chubby until I started lifting weights and playing sports in my teen years. I also had very bad asthma as a kid, which I took inhalers and sometimes breathing treatments for. Also, allergies were terrible. Looking back, I'm pretty sure the house we lived in around those times had mold, one of many contributing factors, I'm sure. My mom had me vaccinated with, I think, only one vaccine as a kid and never again. I've never taken pharmaceuticals, save for maybe a handful of one-time uses over my entire life, and then obviously the insulin for the type 1 diabetes. After watching your Love Your Liver, oh man, do I have a microphone problem? Okay, hold on. This thing, why does it switch? Sorry, I'm fixing the mic problem right now. Just Joe, send me a message. Tell me if it's okay. Is it better? Okay, cool. Oh, this thing, I swear. This new streaming software, sorry. I have, well, see, there's a microphone on my webcam, and then there's this microphone. And yeah, so the camera quality, we're figuring it out. Save the camera quality comments for later, because we can't fix that yet. I don't know what I'm going to do about I think it's my internet connection where I'm at. But anyway. Continuing. Here we are. After watching your Love Your Liver live streams, a light bulb went off and hit me that my diabetes could have possibly been caused by liver injury. When I was 13, I tried taking a couple of handfuls of acetaminophen pills to try to commit suicide. Also around that time, I had alcohol for the first time, and I got very intoxicated at a friend's house. I have tried everything under the sun diet-wise with varying degrees of success. I've had moments, whether it be a day or maybe a week, where I had amazing blood sugar control, but I could never pinpoint the reason why. Just before discovering you on Twitter and subsequently joining your Love Your Liver program, I was doing basically a carnivore/keto diet. We know how this is going to go, right? This initially helped my blood sugar significantly at first, but after about the second week, my blood sugars were back to being hard to control. It's called a honeymoon phase. I did this diet for about 7 weeks in total and just didn't feel right on it. My sex drive was absolutely gone and I wasn't sleeping great. Since starting your Love Your Liver program, I have focused on mostly Great Northern beans and 1.5 to 2 pounds of meat a day, mostly consisting of grass-fed organic ground beef, which has been a staple of my diet for the last 5 to 6 years, and I've always been a meat-centered diet kind of guy.
My body gets metaphorically mad at me when I don't regularly eat meat. I tried liver once years ago and never had it again. But who would want to? Also been having 4 to 5 Fuji apples a day, peeled when I can, and maybe a banana or 2. After experimenting with grains, I have found my body doesn't like them very much. Ezekiel bread seems to be fine, though. I have been taking the sun fiber 1/4 scoop twice a day with no negative side effects. Also taking topical magnesium, 75 milligrams of zinc picolinate, and 200 micrograms of selenium per day. I need to find smaller dose pills of molybdenum, though, because I tried that and it made me feel terrible and very tired. Keep listening. After that reaction, I realized the pills I had were a full milligram dose. We'll talk about that. Results of this diet have been great so far! ! I have never had this repeatability with my insulin just working every single time I take it. A given unit of insulin does what it should every single time now, and that's just after 2 weeks. I have also oddly noticed a weightlifting shoulder injury that has been bothering me for the better part of 2 years is finally starting to feel better. Sex drive is coming back as well. Looking forward to more of this. Thank you for doing what you do. Continuing, he said, still working on getting off the coffee as I've been a fan of black coffee since my teens. I'm down to 1 16-ounce cup every 3 or 4 days. I commented to him, I said, coffee's often the last thing to go. You're doing really well. He then replied, thanks, it makes it easy when you are seeing results. And then the last addition he has is also forgot to add that since a few days into the low vitamin A diet, my blood sugars have been in the high 70s, low 80s every morning. The only time it's not is when I've had low blood sugars in the middle of the night and had to eat something. This is because I'm still adjusting to what I can only assume is better insulin sensitivity. Trust me, I know my blood sugars, and it is a major sign that I'm doing something right when my morning glucose is that good. Also, the only side effect I've had is mosquito bite-like bumps on my legs and groin area that itch, but not all of the time. I can deal with that, though. So, this gentleman is doing an amazingly good job of reading the program. And if you want to know where the program is, members.nutritiondetective.com. That is where you can find the do-it-yourself Love Your Liver program. I'm just going to say this. The Love Your Liver program is do it yourself. There's over 2,000 people who you can ask for help on it. But there was a gentleman on Twitter who was trying to accuse me of not giving him what he bought because he wanted my personal attention on every little thing in the program. He wanted me to hold his hand and walk him through this thing. He thought that that was what he was buying. No. The Love Your Liver program is all the diet stuff and all the stuff, all the concepts that we talk about. It is people, as you can see, that's what this gentleman is doing right now. If you are willing to put in the work and the reading and the watching and the listening and the doing, that is what the Love Your Liver program is for. Now, the next level of it is working with me directly or Nathan, a physician's assistant who works with me, who I've trained. That's where you get to do the testing, the blood testing, and the hair testing to get your mineral levels right. Okay? But this gentleman right now, I'm pretty sure he's signed up to work with me. There is a bit of a wait to work with me. But I believe he signed up to work with me, and we'll start doing that soon. Right now, he's just doing, when people sign up to work with me or Nathan, you get free access. Well, you get lifetime access to the Love Your Liver program as part of that. So that's what he's started on. Now, I want to address a couple things in this testimonial. First, he's got the normal history. Let me just see. We had the terrible eating as a kid. Lots of processed dairy, white flour, white sugar. Probably lots of food colorings. Okay. So asthma, allergies. This is totally vitamin A. I've been over this research in the past. Okay. Very much vitamin A stuff. The more vitamin A you're exposed to as a kid, the more allergies you're going to have. Also, white sugar is how they cause liver injury or cholestasis or toxic bile leaking in the research. Lots of fructose. Lots of fructose. We're not talking about... Notice he's getting better when he's doing just fruit as his sugar. Not white sugar. Not Ray Pete white sugar Mexican Coke nonsense. Okay? So, mention mold. Mold toxins, mycotoxins, will cause liver injury. So get away from mold. Either you need to get the mold remediated in your house, like really remediated, and they need to test when they're done fixing it, or you need to get the heck away from the mold. And if you live somewhere that you know that like really humid and there's just mold like down in the forest leaves, or there's just mold everywhere, if you're sick and you can't get away from breathing mold every day, it's going to be really, really, really hard for you to get better. I don't know how to tell you this. If you're breathing in poison all day from mold, you got to do something about that. Okay. So then, let's see. Only one vaccine as a kid. Didn't do many pharmaceuticals except for sometimes antibiotics. And then he's doing the insulin. Now, there was the moment of big liver injury in this gentleman's life was probably when, he was in a really bad way and he took a bunch of acetaminophen, a lot of acetaminophen. I mean, he said a couple of handfuls of acetaminophen Tylenol pills to try to commit suicide. And then he also had his first really big intoxication with alcohol. So those two things together, not a great start at 13 years old. Okay. Let's keep going. He did the carnivore/keto diet, which the carnivore or keto people will tell you it's magic and it fixes everything. It doesn't fix a thing. There's nothing about a high-fat diet that fixes anything. It slows, it kicks the can down the road, stores more toxins in your liver. It's not, people can see symptoms improve. People can take pharmaceuticals and see their symptoms improve. It doesn't mean it fixed anything. Okay, just because it's food doesn't mean it fixes anything. So he felt better for a little while, and then all of a sudden his blood sugars got worse again. Okay. He's eating apples and bananas, two of our favorite fruits on the program. He's not having blood sugar problems. His blood sugar is getting better. He said he doesn't do great on a lot of grains. This is where this gentleman listened to me really well. People think that I advocate tons of grains and tons of beans for everybody on the program. I like these foods. They're great for soluble fiber. But if you don't tolerate them, don't freaking eat them. If you don't tolerate them, don't freaking eat them. He listened to his body. He's like, the grains aren't sitting too good with me. Oh, but the Great Northern beans are going good. And he said he can have Ezekiel bread. Okay, he found what worked for him. The biggest difference between my approach and too many others out there is I'll say, try these things. They're probably helpful, but if you don't feel good on them, don't eat them. This is what I've always said. I don't do great on grains. I don't do great on beans. I'll have them a couple times a week, but I know that if I make them every day, I don't feel great. My dad was the same way. So I do what works for me. Now, do I tell people to try beans and grains? And some people tell me that everybody, like the paleo crowd and everybody on the internet, told them that beans were hell on earth. And then people come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Smith, eating beans, telling me that I could eat beans was like the greatest thing anybody ever did for how I feel in my health. Okay. Do they work for me? No. Do they work for other people? Sometimes. They're amazing. Okay. Now, let me just say something here about the supplements. Magnesium, topical magnesium, great. 75 milligrams of zinc picolinate. I'm gonna say something here. When people are not testing their zinc, I typically do not take people over 30 milligrams is where I typically limit people when they're not testing. I hedge my bets. I don't need to give too many people too much zinc because zinc toxicity is a legit thing. It takes a while. If you're doing 30 milligrams, it's probably not going to cause the problem. That's why I do that. People I test, I usually don't. When I'm testing people, I usually don't take them above 60 until I know that everything's fine. So 75, this is not my doing. So if you decide to listen to his testimonial and do what he's doing, I'm saying I'm not controlling this situation. Okay? The selenium's fine. This is very, very important about molybdenum. Here's his quote. I need to find smaller dose pills of molybdenum, though, because I tried that and it made me feel terrible and very tired. After that reaction, I realized the pills I had were a full milligram dose. Okay. This was actually very good observation by this gentleman watching how he felt. Okay, the thorn Thorne brand, Thorne Research, molybdenum glycinate pills are 1,000 micrograms, aka 1 milligram of molybdenum. This is way too high for a daily dose. I wish they'd take these off the market, honestly, because when people start taking these at 1 pill a day, it's generally too much. Almost always it's going to be too much. The case study in the literature of molybdenum toxicity from supplements, the guy was taking these pills. Let me tell you about what a safe dose of molybdenum is that I've found for generally most people. Is it good for everybody? No, because everybody's different. If you drive, a little compact car, you don't need as much gasoline as a giant pickup truck. Like, different people need different amounts of things. The biggest disservice that's ever been done to people in medicine is everybody wanting to think that everybody just needs the same of everything. Get that out of your mind and start thinking, what do I do to get the right amount for me? And then you'll be on the right track. Okay. One of the ways we do it is testing. And the next way is helping people to navigate as how they feel, as they're feeling differently with taking it. So we do the testing, and then by people's reactions, we have them start slowly and do one thing at a time so they can be their own little science experiment. You are an experiment of one person. So if you don't treat yourself like an experiment of one person and you just assume that what the studies say is what's going to work for you, I'm sorry, it's not. Or most likely it's not. It might. You might be the lucky one. But anyway, the dose of molybdenum that is in my Keystone Minerals, which is kind of like our little multi-mineral, if you will. It's available at the nutritiondetective.com shop. It's quite popular. The daily dose of molybdenum is 150 micrograms. 150 micrograms is about 1/7 of 1,000 micrograms. Okay, so the stuff I tend to the normal dose of molybdenum that I use is 1/7 of the Thorne pill. So if somebody was taking a Thorne pill to get, on average, the daily dose of what I use for molybdenum with my clients, and if you're not working with me, you're not my client, the normal daily dose that I use is 150 micrograms a day, which would be, if you 7 times 150 would be 1,050 micrograms per week. So here's what this gentleman did that is great. He took it. The dose, he didn't know the dosing thing. He didn't feel good, so he stopped. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. So even though this gentleman didn't know his dosing, he listened to his body and he stopped it. If you are working with any practitioner and you are taking something, anything other than maybe probiotics or fiber, that you feel bad on immediately, you should reduce your dose or stop it. And that's what this gentleman did. So he did a very good job. Even though he took too big a dose, he listened to his body and he said, this ain't right. I'm going to stop. Okay. Now, so his insulin's working better. His shoulder injury is getting better. An old shoulder injury seems to be bothering him less because he's less inflamed, and his sex drive is coming back. Okay. Coffee, I'm just going to tell you guys, coffee and caffeine, generally, it's one of the last things that people find they're able to quit. Okay. Doesn't mean it's good for you. It's just one of the last things that people are able to quit. And he's noticing that his blood sugar control is getting much better. Okay. Oh, here's an interesting thing. I just saw this comment from My Sales Rock. He said, I tried to order my Thorne molybdenum again and they don't make them anymore. And I take 1 a day, sometimes 2 a day. I don't recommend any multivitamins. Multivitamins are absolute straight toxic garbage. Half the ingredients in them I would never have people take. Half the ingredients I'd say I'm helping people detox from. So multivitamins are straight up garbage. But here's an interesting thing Thorne did recently too. In recent months or years, they used to have a really high dose vitamin A pill, like 25,000 units, I think it was. They got rid of that. Interesting. They also had a 25,000 unit vitamin D pill, and they got rid of that. And now maybe, I have not confirmed this, but maybe they're getting rid of their big thorn molybdenum glycinate pill because they were doing these okay, this is orthomolecular medicine. This is like megadosing poison toxic doses of supplements to people like vitamin A, vitamin D. And can you overdose on molybdenum? Sure, yeah, you can overdose on zinc, you can overdose on molybdenum, you can overdose on selenium. 3 of the biggest minerals I use. Now, are they essential nutrients? Do you need some amount of them? Yes. Do I find that most people are deficient in them these days? Yes. Does that mean we should overdose them? No. We do have to use this thing up here. Lucky for the people who work with me, I have really, really good pattern recognition and I can figure these things out really, really quick. And then I just do the simple things like this philosophical thing of, doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. And then if people don't want to listen to me and they want to try to strike off on their own and be tough guys and gals, we have the saying of, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. So if you want to go against the patterns that I've observed in most people, thinking you're going to be different, you're going to be the unique snowflake and you get your ass kicked. If you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. So we have these things where I warn people. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. And so I'm not here. I don't want you getting your butt kicked. Because detox, as another saying, Joe, is the right webcam selected? There's only one. There is only one. Oh, I don't want to hit that button. Wait, let me try this. Let me try something. Okay, I just did full resolution. Did that change anything, Joe? Waiting for Joe's comment. We're trying to make this better. We're trying. I didn't realize that this thing didn't set defaults and hold anything. So Joe, I did just change the resolution. No, it's not I'm not on a laptop. Okay, so it's better. Okay, cool. Great. I got Joe texting me. I got Joe chatting with me on the thing. I'm trying to keep the computer running at Livestream pace. You know, I'm doing my best here. So that testimonial is a classic example. I mean, that gentleman is having really quick results. Now, does this mean he's going to be fixed like that? No, it doesn't mean he's going to be off insulin anytime necessarily soon. He may still need it. There are several people in the low vitamin A community who did very, very strict diets. One of them who claim that they are off insulin. One's a child, one's an adult. There may be more by now. Anyway, as you can see, I've posted here about vitamin A and diabetes and all that stuff before. They're absolutely connected. Liver injury is absolutely connected. Think of it as your when people understand this really makes sense. Your liver, if your liver dies, if your liver fails, you're dead. Okay? So your liver has to outlast everything in your body. So if, let's say, problems are happening in your body, your liver's not keeping up with its jobs. So you're getting more toxic bile in your blood. And the toxic bile is affecting everything negatively. Now think about it. Like, I'm going to do a little example here. Like if you're on a hike or as a kid, when you were going on, let's say, a field trip and you're walking somewhere with your group, just think of any group traveling. There's going to be stragglers, right? One day it might be one kid. One day it might be another kid. There's going to be things that can't keep up with the group. Think of it in your body as like your liver's the leader. Because if your liver fails, you're done. But what if in some people, the pancreas was failing first? The pancreas was what's falling behind. Or the pancreas fell down and broke its leg and it's not moving forward. So now you got to be on insulin. Okay. The root problem was in the liver. That's the root. So when you see other organs failing, the weak links in the chain, it's still the liver that's not doing its job. That's the reason they failed. That's why the kidneys fail. That's why the pancreas fails. So when you understand that, then we start to go, okay, so now we focus on the liver. And that is what this gentleman's doing. Like, I'm not doing anything for this gentleman other than what we do in the Love Your Liver program. I mean, I'm not doing anything for him. He's doing the Love Your Liver program and he's getting the benefits. Okay. So, let's see. So I want to go over the topic of today. On the little trial run video Q&A live stream that we did, I think it was Friday. So if you guys want to go, if you missed that, there is another live stream that we did on Friday as a practice run for this. Hopefully I will be able to we're still ironing out bugs. But let me go and let's see. Joe, we can switch over to the research now. Let's bring that up. So we're going to go into ferritin as an indicator of toxic bile leaking into the bloodstream. A lot of people understand ferritin as iron overload or hemochromatosis. So you're seeing a lot of ferritin in the blood. There's let Joe, let me show let me see this. Go to the other screen, or let's do share, or do I do the share screen? I understand. Yeah. Okay. So we want management of, there it is. Still figuring out. Okay. There we go. So I want to go over. So the big thing about ferritin and hemochromatosis and all this stuff. So here we're going to start. We're going to start here because these are really important things to cover. This is called Management of Elevated Serum Ferritin Levels, right? 2008. Are there genetic or any other factors that increase the susceptibility to elevated ferritin levels? Okay. Here we go. The most common causes of elevated ferritin levels are likely obesity, inflammation, and daily alcohol consumption. Okay. Which one of those makes somebody have more iron in their system? Just wondering. Why would obesity make the iron in the system go up? So here's what I'm going to tell you right off the bat. Ferritin doesn't necessarily mean there's tons more iron in the system. It means you're leaking ferritin into the blood. Leaking, very important concept. The ferritin protein may or may not have iron in it, as you'll see. So key thing to remember, the ferritin that's in your blood may or may not have iron in it. They associate ferritin with inflammation. Inflammation. That's the most worthless term ever used in medicine, because now they're saying, well, every disease could be linked to inflammation. Well, that doesn't help anything now, does it? You just change the word disease to inflammation. That didn't move anything forward. And then if the logic is, well, if all disease is inflammation, why can't we just take non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, and just fix it? Just reduce inflammation. Because it was never that simple, but they got people to take a bunch more drugs that damaged their liver now, didn't they? So obesity. I have been over on Twitter, the connection between obesity and vitamin A. Absolutely connected. And then daily alcohol consumption. Hey, ladies, you out there having your little wine at night, and guys, you having your couple beers a day or whatever. How would alcohol raise iron levels? How would obesity raise iron levels? How would inflammation raise iron levels? How would alcohol raise iron levels? Or what are all these things saying? They're saying you have a liver problem. Okay. However, so this is an important thing. The cause of most cases of mild elevations in ferritin levels has not been clearly established. Let me just cover, when they say mild elevations in ferritin levels, I don't know if you know this, but on the range for LabCorp, one of the biggest lab chains in the US, the high end of it is 400. So they're saying mild ferritin elevations are like above 400. Anybody who's been looking into ferritin knows that above 400 is like pretty significant. It's very significant. Okay. Oh, wait, here's another thing that connects it to vitamin A. Clinicians have been reluctant to proceed to invasive testing such as liver biopsy to document iron overload. Oh, you mean they're not actually looking into what's in the liver? You mean so they don't really know? Oh, are they like trying to hide something? Could it be like vitamin A? Where they don't look in here. I want you guys to have these threads. Okay, so let me go to Twitter. Let me find this for you guys. Now, for those of you who aren't on Twitter, I'm sorry. These things are on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. That is where I post a lot of my stuff. So here is the link. This is my obesity thread. I would highly suggest you go read this. Okay. Next, we have the oh wait, let me go to Twitter. Now, finding this one is a little harder. Where's my why did the thing disappear? There it is. Let's go do, and this is how you can search Twitter for anything that I've written about. You type in from : NutriDetect, no space, and then a space, and then you can type in, let's say, toxicity epidemic. Here it is. Now, you need to go read this thread because this goes over how you can have how basic multiple countries in the world, and how they've shown when they do a liver biopsy, they find vitamin A toxicity in the liver. In a bunch of countries. They find it in kids under 10 a lot. So you parents out there who did the Weston Price thing and other nonsense where you're feeding your kids cod liver oil and having them eat liver, tons of dairy, raw or whatever, or God forbid you're eating tons of egg yolks, it gets stuck in the liver. It doesn't necessarily show up in the blood. Doesn't necessarily show up in the blood. And I go over the research here where you can actually be toxic in the liver and have normal vitamin A in your blood or low vitamin A in your blood and still be toxic in your liver. Okay? But they just said on this research, they've been reluctant to proceed to invasive testing such as liver biopsy to document iron overload. Well, you know where they could do it? They could do it on dead bodies. They could do necropsies or autopsies to look at iron in the liver. Do you think they might be avoiding that for any reason? They probably wouldn't want to find it out. Now, one of the things I need you to know about all of this is vitamin A has been shown over and over in the research to raise iron levels in the body. Okay? This is one of the reasons they give vitamin A to these starving kids in Africa who don't eat any meat. Is it raises their iron levels in their blood. So then you have people on certain protocols here who are obsessed with fixing their iron overload through blood draws, but they also push tons of cod liver oil and eating liver and other vitamin A sources in their diet, and they wonder why they don't get anywhere. Now let's go over this. So I'm not gonna talk too much about the genetic mutations. Genetic mutations. You know what genetics makes you more susceptible to? It tells you where your weak links are. And if you abuse those weak links, you're going to show up with problems. So I'm not going to go too much over the genetic stuff here. Okay. How are serum ferritin levels? Oh, wait, here we go. It is important to remember that elevated ferritin does not equal iron overload. Wait, that's not what they tell everybody on the interwebs. Elevated ferritin does not equal iron overload, and there are many patients with elevated ferritin caused by inflammation. Okay, inflammation. One of the things that ferritin is known as is an acute phase reactant, which means it goes up during times of elevated disease or sickness, especially acute sickness. Now, what do we talk about here? So let me just link this together here. Now, when you're sick, when you get sick and you're feeling worse, I'm going to tell you that you have more bile in your blood. Bile contains ferritin. We're going to go over how bile, your body puts ferritin into the bile. You are not supposed to have ferritin in your blood. You are not supposed to have bile in your blood. We're going to link all this together. Don't worry. But just see, so I'm saying if you have toxic bile leaking into your blood, which is something we talk about here, if you need more on toxic bile theory, go to Love Your Liver live stream number 71. That's kind of the basics of toxic bile theory. But you're not supposed to have bile in your blood, and therefore, potentially, you're not supposed to have ferritin in your blood. Potentially. Now, there are people out there trying to do blood draws to try to drive their ferritin in their blood down to zero, and they're making themselves feel worse because they're not addressing the root cause. The root cause is the leaky bile, and they know nothing about this. They worsen it with vitamin A. So anyway, if you had inflammation in the blood, then you can have elevated ferritin. Does this go together? This makes sense. Could you have iron overload? Sure. What does vitamin A increase the body's absorption of? Oh, iron. Weird. Can raised ferritin levels act as markers for liver disease? Here we go again. Ferritin is stored in many types of cells, including liver cells. Okay. With liver damage from any cause, ferritin is leaked into the blood. What do those liver cells also make? Oh, that's bile. What would we call this if stuff from the liver cells, including bile and the ferritin that's there, what do we call that? We call this cholestasis. Intrahepatic cholestasis, which means leaking from the liver directly into the bloodstream. That's what it means, okay? We have here, therefore, serum ferritin can be an indirect measure of liver necrosis. Would you leak bile if that was happening too? Yeah. We've talked about how some of the hyper hormone states that people get is probably from those cells being destroyed and leaking out their hormones. Could it happen with the liver too? Yeah, the liver doesn't leak hormones. The liver leaks copper. The liver leaks iron. The liver leaks toxic bile. The liver leaks manganese. The liver leaks all these things. The liver leaks cadmium, lead, mercury, aluminum, arsenic, all these things that it stores, which I've shown in the organ meats thread. If you don't know, here, let me find this one. Let me go on Twitter and find, let me see if I can just pull it up from here. Let's see if this is it. This is my organ meats thread showing cadmium and mercury. Let's just run down through here a little bit. There's cadmium and lead. Let's see, cadmium in organ meats, mercury in organ meats, arsenic in organ meats, lead in organ meats, aluminum in organ meats. And we found it in conventional and free grazing, or why, you know, the free grazing. What do they call the chickens that they let wander around in a little patch of dirt? Not free range. What do they call those ones? Cage free or whatever. Anyway, there's people out there in the vitamin A world recommending people to eat kidneys now, and it's just bad advice. Don't. Cadmium and lead in Croatian wild game organ meats. So listen to this. If you are eating, if wild game is toxic, what do you think your grass-fed is? I go over in here in New Zealand. Stuff is toxic. Arsenic in free-range Nigerian chickens. Okay, read these threads. Go into these threads. The links are all, you can just pause the video and look at the link up there. I need to figure out how to make this a little bigger all the time. Well, that's too big. Wow. So these are really, really important. So then we have, oh, wait, Ferritin was shown to be a surrogate marker for the presence of viral hepatitis. It's chicken or the egg? Okay, here's an important thing for those of you who are obsessing on your ferritin levels. It should be noted that it is not serum ferritin that leads to signs and symptoms. Rather, it is the disease process that causes the ferritin elevation that may lead to signs and symptoms. Oh, what disease process are we talking about here? Is it cholestasis, leaking toxic bile into the blood? It's not the ferritin that's causing the problems. The ferritin is an indicator of a problem, but they don't know what it is. They just said that at the start. Okay, so let's keep going. There was some other stuff in here. The magnitude of the liver disease is more common in men over 50 years of age and may be accelerated if other risk factors such as alcohol, fatty liver, or viral hepatitis are also present. So they're saying, what does alcoholism cause? Cholestasis. Fatty liver, that's a cholestatic disease. Viral hepatitis, that's a cholestatic disease. Okay? We're saying all these diseases are connected to a bad liver that's leaking bile into the blood. Okay. So I think we may be about done with this one. Let me just see. Yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, we're done with that one. Okay. So understand the basis here. Ferritin is not the enemy. The cause of the elevated ferritin is what we are going after. You don't want your body to be the enemy. Like the war on cancer. You're not fighting cancer. Cancer is your own cells. Cancers are storage cells for toxins. That's why when you look in the research and you find cancer cells have higher ALDH than normal cells, why would cancer cells have more detox enzymes than normal cells? Well, okay, like why would they have more detox enzymes? Because that's why they were made as storage depots to process the extra poisons that we accumulated. Cancer is a toxicity state. Don't let anybody tell you any different. This is why they've never gotten anywhere with cancer. Because first they'd have to admit that cancer is a toxicity state. And then they'd have to go, well, yeah, medicine's been letting everybody poison you. Oops. Oh, but we're not going to let you sue us now for poisoning you and your grandparents and all your family members and all that stuff. They're never going to let that happen. Okay, so let's go into some more stuff. Biliary means through the bile. Biliary excretion of iron and ferritin in idiopathic hemochromatosis. Let me just go over what the word idiopathic means. It sounds like idiot, doesn't it? This is modern medicine when they say, we don't know what caused it. We have no idea what causes it. So they're saying hemochromatosis, right? Too much iron overload. But we don't know what causes it. And here we're talking about bile excretion of iron and ferritin. Okay. So let me find the important part here. So we have liver iron concentration was increased about 8 times in the patients with hemochromatosis. Okay. But they're not saying that these are genetic hemochromatosis. They're saying idiopathic. They're saying we don't know why these people have iron overload. Well, but remember, high ferritin doesn't necessarily mean iron overload. That ferritin can be empty. You could have a ferritin, it's like a cage. They actually describe it in one of these papers. I don't know if I'm going to read that part, but they describe it as almost like a spherical cage, I believe. But you could lose the iron out of it. So 8 times as much iron in the liver with hemochromatosis. Bile iron concentration expressed per millimole of bile acid was increased about 2-fold, and bile ferritin about 5-fold in hemochromatosis. Sounds like the body's trying to get rid of the extra ferritin through the bile, does it not? Let me just make sure. Why is everybody... I'm doing this because I want to make sure that I'm not getting text from Joe. It wasn't Joe. So the body's trying to get the liver makes the bile. The liver stores the iron. Wait, is this sounding familiar to any other so-called vitamins, and then the body tries to get rid of it through the bile. The more you have in your liver, the more your body tries to get rid of it through the bile. Now, they say here 4 of the patients with hemochromatosis were re-examined after completed treatment with venesection, that's blood draws, or therapeutic phlebotomy. This resulted in normalized biliary concentrations of iron and ferritin. Hold on, I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. There has been a lot of stuff in the air. For those of you, I'm just going to throw this out there. For those of you who are maybe feeling like kind of a dry or a hot mouth, or maybe you're having kind of allergy symptoms, doesn't mean it's allergies. Have you heard about these giant fires that are dropping smoke all across the US, up in Canada? Smoke has never been good for us, folks. People talk about allergies, and it's not allergies. If somebody was smoking, if you knew somebody was smoking, you wouldn't, and they have problems with their breathing or their sinuses, would you say that they have allergies to cigarettes? No, you'd say they're breathing in toxins. So if you're breathing in smoke that's coming down from Canada, you may have reactions to it. It doesn't, if you want to go take anti-allergy medications, really what you're doing is you're stopping your detox. Yes, you may feel better, but you may be causing your liver problems later. So anyway, keep that in mind. Let's see, where were we? So their bile concentrations of iron and ferritin returned normal after they took more blood, after they took blood out. One of the things that people may notice if you have lots of ferritin in your blood is you may feel better after a blood draw. If it lowered your bile iron and ferritin concentrations, then the bile that's leaking into your blood would have less of that in it, if that was part of what was causing you not to feel good. Now, if you go and you try to do blood draws and you do not feel good afterwards, don't keep going and doing them. Don't. Your body's saying, we didn't like this. Don't go and do that. Oh, here's this last thing. The apparently limited capacity of biliary bile iron excretion may be of importance for the hepatic iron accumulation in hemochromatosis. So let me tell you what we see in my long-term, the people who are working with me long-term. As a general rule, we see their ferritin start to normalize. Do I treat them for iron overload? No. I treat them for cholestasis. So where is their bile going? Instead of going into their blood, the bile with the ferritin in it is not going back into their blood so much, it's going out their intestines, which is where it's supposed to go. People go and read on the internet, oh, you got to take calcium to block the iron absorption. Oh, you got to reduce your red meat to like once a week or once every 2 weeks, and you can't eat iron, and you got to do IP6, and you got to do all this stuff. They are attacking the symptom of the problem. We are attacking the root cause of the problem, which is why is the bile and the ferritin within it leaking into the blood? Well, it's leaking because you have cholestasis, toxic bile. That's leaking. That's why. Okay? So that's just showing they're saying if you don't get rid of the ferritin through the bile fast enough, through the poop, then it starts to build up in your liver. This should make sense. If you can't get rid of the vitamin A fast enough, you'll build it up in your liver. If you can't get rid of the copper fast enough, you'll build it up in your liver. If you can't get rid of the manganese fast enough, you'll build it up in your liver. Cadmium, lead, mercury, arsenic, whatever. If you can't get rid of it fast enough in the bile, it's going to store in your liver. If you are leaking the bile back into your bloodstream, the more you're leaking it back into your bloodstream, the slower your whole detox system is, and then the more damage you're causing to your kidneys. And that's when you start to get skin conditions, if you haven't heard me talk about the detox priority order, okay? So, serum ferritin in neonatal cholestasis. Newborns being born with toxic bile leaking into their blood. Jaundice is cholestasis. If you were born with jaundice, you were born with a liver injury, you were born leaking bile into your blood. That's why you were yellow. Bile is yellow. Bilirubin is the cause of the skin color change. Okay? So serum ferritin, when there's neonatal cholestasis, right? If serum ferritin is in the bile, and that's the way it's supposed to be excreted, if we know we have bile leaking into the blood, we should see higher ferritin. Okay, let me back up. I need everybody to put on your thinking caps right now and listen. Just because you don't have high ferritin doesn't mean you can't be leaking toxic bile into your blood. It doesn't mean that. This is just one way that we can see if the bile is leaking into your blood. One way. Would high bilirubin be another way? Sure. Would high liver enzymes, AST, ALT, GGT, alkaline phosphatase, lactate dehydrogenase, these are all indicators that if those are high, those are other indicators of cholestasis. Could you have elevated serum bile in your blood? Yes. Could you have elevated copper in your blood? Yes. There's all sorts of things that could show up. Now, if you're an undertype, as I talk about in the Love Your Liver program, most of these things show up low, probably because your liver's not making much bile anyway. It's a different situation. The underweight people are rarer, if you will. They're rare, but they're also rarer than the overtype people. Most people go high. Most people tend towards overweight. Have you looked around lately? Most people don't tend towards being underweight. The underweight people are in, as I kind of jokingly say, they're in deeper liver doo-doo. Their liver's worse off. But they're rarer. Doesn't mean they don't deserve help. Doesn't mean that the same thing's not going on, but it manifests differently. It shows up differently on their labs. It shows up differently in their phenotype. Okay? Conclusion, serum ferritin is non-specifically elevated in neonatal cholestasis. Gosh, they're going together. Okay? With positive correlation to hepatic iron grade, so more iron in their liver. Okay? So now we're linking those together. Cutoff values for serum ferritin in predicting cirrhosis. Severity due to cholestatic jaundice in Vietnamese children. Okay. Serum ferritin levels are significantly associated with decompensated cirrhosis and disease severity. Routine serum ferritin testing may contribute to predicting cirrhosis severity in children. They want to test ferritin to predict how bad the liver is. Are they going together now? And cirrhosis is, here, let's just do this. So cholestasis, liver and gallbladder disorders. Cirrhosis is a cholestatic liver disease. Okay? Cirrhosis means you are leaking bile into your blood. Okay? They have a bunch here. Acute hepatitis, alcohol-related liver disease, primary biliary cholangitis with inflammation and scarring of the bile ducts, cirrhosis, viral hepatitis B or C. Hepatic changes in serum ferritin and pancreatic cancer. Oh, this is where I wanted this one line out of this paper. Let's see. Correlations were detected between ferritin and other proteins. Here, let me make this a little bigger for you. Correlations were detected between ferritin and other proteins investigated, and between ferritin and total bilirubin, alkaline phosphatase, and alanine aminotransferase. That's ALT. Multiple regression analysis demonstrated that cholestasis accounts for 45% of circulating ferritin. Cholestasis accounts for 45% of the circulating ferritin. Cholestasis accounts for 45% of the serum ferritin. The acute phase response accounted for 18%. Well, that's dumping bile is really what I'm going to tell you. That is the acute phase response. That's the bile dump. And decreased liver function accounted for 11%. It's interesting how decreased liver function, I mean, it's all right there. The liver's just leaking the ferritin into the bile and just directly leaking it. So we conclude that the increase in serum ferritin in chronic pancreatic and other gastrointestinal diseases largely depends on liver changes, with cholestasis probably playing a primary role. Elevated serum ferritin level associated with hepatic steatosis, that's fatty liver, and fibrosis, that's scarring, that's cirrhosis, in hepatitis C virus infected patients. Now, people keep asking me about hepatitis B. They want me to go over chronic hepatitis B. I will get to it. I have to. This week was busy. I didn't have time to dig into the research. For those of you who want to, like to send me information, if you find stuff, here's what I'm going to go do. Because viruses are an indicator of a toxicity state. So what would I say if you guys want to help me? Go look. You're looking for the toxins that associate with hepatitis B. You can do searches for vitamin A, copper, iron, manganese, cadmium, lead, mercury, arsenic, any aluminum. Go search for things that you know that we talk about here that are toxic with hepatitis B. If you want to help me out, maybe you'll find something that I wouldn't, and we can make this look even better. Thank goodness I never took that Hep B shot in med school. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I never took that. Conclusion here. Elevated serum ferritin level was noted in 40.8% of Taiwanese CHC. What is CHC? Chronic hepatitis C patients. And the serum ferritin level was associated with liver steatosis, fatty liver, and high FIB4. I don't know what FIB4 is. Oh, there it is. 4 indexes of fibrosis. So yeah, they have to have 4 indexes of cirrhosis, and they didn't see elevated serum level in all of them. Didn't I just say this earlier? High serum ferritin is but one of the potential indicators of how you're leaking toxic bile into the blood. People who want it to be the same way every time, they're like, what are the symptoms of vitamin A toxicity? Because they want to look at this little list and then say, well, I obviously don't have it, so I don't have to worry about that. People will be like, well, I took Accutane and I got all these health problems, but I don't have any of those vitamin A toxicity symptoms. Well, when you understand toxic bile theory, it starts to make sense how you can have problems anywhere from the liver injury, because the toxic bile and what's in it goes everywhere the bloodstream goes. And then when you understand the weak link theory, where you break first is your weak links, which could be created by genetics, your past nutrition, your deficiencies in nutrition, your toxicities that you were exposed to, the stuff that's still stored, the meds you've taken, the shots you've gotten, your mental state. Ladies, birth control pills. Oh my God. Oh, birth control. Let's combine a bunch of things here now. Painless jaundice with high ferritin level, a rare presentation of infectious mononucleosis. They turned yellow from enough bilirubin with a high ferritin level from a virus. Okay. For instance, ferritin can be elevated due to its role as an acute phase reactant in the setting of Epstein-Barr infection, but also as a result of autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So your body's destroying its own red blood cells, supposedly, or maybe they're just dying because everything's so toxic, depending upon the degree of hemolysis. Anyway, Okay, remember what we said earlier? Just look at the title here. Serum ferritin is an important inflammatory disease marker. It's a disease marker, as it is mainly a leakage product from damaged cells. Okay, we're back. That was a weird thing. The screen did the screen just go black for you guys too? The screen just went black for me. I was looking at the live picture and it just went black. Anyway. Okay, listen to this first line. This is the most important line. Serum ferritin. I love how they put quotes. Serum ferritin. You never see me do this, right? You never see me do the air quotes. Serum ferritin presents a paradox, which means they don't understand it because they all want it to be one way. As the iron storage protein ferritin is not synthesized in the serum, yet it is to be found there. Hey, bile's not really synthesized in the serum, and it's found there too. Does this sound familiar? Serum ferritin is also a well-known inflammatory marker. Where is it? A well-known inflammatory marker, but it is unclear whether serum ferritin reflects or causes inflammation. Could it be both? Sure, it could be both. Or whether it is involved in an inflammatory cycle. We argue here that serum ferritin arises from damaged cells, possibly damaged liver cells, leaking bile too, and is thus a marker of cellular damage. The protein in serum ferritin is considered benign. So why is everybody freaking out about ferritin? But it has lost, i.e. dumped. We never use the word dumped, do we? Lost or dumped most of its normal complement of iron, which when unliganded, unbound, is highly toxic. You want to know what else is highly toxic when it's not bound? Serum retinol is highly toxic. Why do you think you make retinol binding protein? Why do you think you make cellular retinoic acid binding protein? Because if you don't bind it, it's super, super, super toxic. What do you think free copper does in you when it's not bound up by things like ceruloplasmin or GHK-Cu? Why do we have all these binding proteins? Do you know how many binding proteins are made for iron? Oh my gosh, I couldn't even list them all here. It's got to be like 30 or 40. People are just familiar with ferritin and transferrin, and there's tons of them. What's the other one? I'm not remembering off the top of my head. Anyway, the facts that serum ferritin levels can correlate with both disease and with body iron stores are thus expected on simple, should we call it simplistic, chemical kinetic grounds. Here we go. Overall, this systems approach serves to explain a number of apparent paradoxes of serum ferritin, including one, why it correlates with biomarkers of cell damage. Well, we're going to say it's because of bile leaking into the blood. Cells breaking apart, bile leaking into the blood. It's all in the same wheelhouse. Two, why it correlates with biomarkers of hydroxyl radical formation and oxidative stress. Well, you don't want rust floating around in your system. And three, therefore, why it correlates with the presence and or severity of numerous diseases. When you understand toxic bile theory, you understand why it would correlate with all these diseases, particularly liver disease. Right? Serum ferritin levels mainly represent a consequence of cell stress and damage. Let me read that again. Serum ferritin levels mainly represent a consequence of cell stress and damage. Joe's testing out all different setups here. Trying to make me look exciting, right? Move the picture around. Usefulness of combined measurement of serum bile acids and ferritin as additional prognostic markers to predict failure to reach sustained response to antiviral treatment in chronic hepatitis C. Combined measurement of serum bile and ferritin. Let's see, where was it? Apparent value to predict the absence of a sustained response was calculated by combining elevated ferritin over 300, which is still normal on LabCorp stuff, just so you know. They call it elevated here at above 300, and serum total bile acids or individual bile acid species at different cutoff values. The best degree of certainty, 100% specificity, was obtained using a serum total bile acid of greater than 15 micromoles. I believe here at LabCorp, above 13 is their high range for serum total bile acids. Or was it 10? It might be 10, it might be 13. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, 100% specificity when they looked at ferritin and serum total bile acids. So it's not, as I said, it doesn't always go together. Isn't that what I was saying? But look at this. They could have elevated serum ferritin, and then they could look at serum total bile acids, or sometimes it was individual bile acids. Are you catching on to how I'm saying these present differently in different people? You don't get to just have, everybody's like, what can I test for my liver to see if I have cholestasis? You don't get to. We have a giant liver panel that you can run. And we do a CMP. So we're looking at AST, ALT, alkaline phosphatase. And then you can add on LDH, and you can add on GGT, and you can add on, bilirubin's in there normally. You can go and test serum total bile acids. And then you can test, what's the other ones? What's the other two? There's one that's conjugated bile acids. And you can test all of this stuff. Now, I've had people, you can test ferritin, you can test copper. You can test these things. Do they show up in everybody? No. What people would want, what would be great is if every single one showed up in every single person that had the problem, and you had 100% specificity. You don't get that in anything. And what can we do? We might have people who test fine. Oh, vitamin A. You could test for vitamin A as a marker of cholestasis in most people. But what we find is generally as people do these approaches, even if their labs look fine for their liver and all the cholestasis markers, they feel better. Imagine that. I just talked to somebody the other day who was really, she's coming to me because she wants my help. And she's like, I don't feel good, but the doctors tell me all my labs are just fine. And I'm like, it's terrible, isn't it? That they do this, especially to women. Especially to women. I mean, men don't go to the doctor too much. Ladies, you have another problem. You go to the doctors and you get gaslighted that everything's fine, and then you take the meds they give you, more so than men. Women trust doctors more than men, and so women get messed up by pharmaceuticals more than men. And then they've also often been on birth control pills for God knows how many years. That is the biggest thing that I find causes problem. I mean, there's always the shots. The shots are a problem. There's always the antibiotics. Those are always a problem. But the one thing that is the biggest difference between men and women is obviously we don't take birth control pills. And birth control pills are an absolute disaster. I really need to finish my Twitter thread on birth control pills. Okay, so that was it. That was the ferritin and bile presentation. I just went, just so you know how I do this. I was on my phone the other day. Actually, there's a gentleman named Axis of Logos on Twitter, and he sent me another he messaged me another study paper link about, he must have seen my live stream, and then he messaged me another link about a study paper, and I was like, here's the topic for tomorrow. And then I have all my links on my phone, sent them over to myself on the computer this morning, and then I did all this. So this is it's all connected. Okay. So let me go look. Oh gosh, 142 chats. No, Joe, we're done with the research. We're not going to do the research anymore. unless I do it as we go. So now I'm going to get into, let me see if there's super chats. And there are super chats, folks, if you want to get in on that. If you want your question answered ASAP. I see some. I passed some. I'm starting at the top. If I ever miss a super chat, please let me know. I think I might have one that I missed right now, but I can't go back. I think Pierre told me about it. Pierre, if there was one that I missed, I think I got to all the ones on the trial run of the Livestream software. So I'm scrolling down. To find. I thought this thing let me search out. Okay, Ramon's saying he never got a notification from YouTube last Friday about the live stream. We're gonna have okay. Let me explain my challenges here, right? So I like having this where I can show you guys what's on the screen, where I can highlight it and you can see the web address and you can go look that these are real things on PubMed and on these other journals. Like I want it to look as legit as possible. That is my goal. I want you to I'm not just look as lit. I mean, anyway. Oh, okay, Ramon. I missed. That's why I said I thought I missed one. Ramon, why don't you repost it? If you can, if you could do me a favor and go find it and repost it, that would be awesome. That would just make it easier for me to get to it. But what we were trying to do, see, I don't know how to start the live stream here. But what it used to do the announcement was I did everything on YouTube and it would announce it to everybody who are all of my subscribers. But how do I do the live stream launch here where this creates the announcement on YouTube? Trying to figure it all out. Joe's been super helpful. If any of you know how to do this, I don't know how to do an announcement on YouTube where that will create the link and then to also launch it here so I can do it this way. And I don't have the OBS or whatever yet. We're doing this on a website, interface because, oh my gosh, I looked at that OBS interface. That was like way beyond what I want to learn right now. Anyway. Okay, so hopefully the computer's a little, the picture's a little better. Fuzzed out again. James is asking, what's the deal with this vitamin A stuff? I would suggest you go to anybody who doesn't understand the vitamin A toxicity thing, you go to my Twitter. Joe, can you show my Twitter for a second? Can you show the screen? Up at the top. Let me see. There. This is my Twitter. Okay. Twitter.com/NutriDetect. I know Twitter's like kind of a cesspool of humanity at times. It's also full of really, really smart people, which is why I like being there. I just mute or block the cesspool people. But if you go under my if you go here and then you look at my pinned tweet, there's like 20 or 25 threads in there that you can learn all about it. Okay? It is not a vitamin. It is a toxin. Everything you've learned about vitamin A being good for you is completely wrong, and it's all part of the plan to make us weak, sick, infertile, and die early. And this is why I just reposted, for those of you who want to introduce people to this, and they just can't seem to believe you, but let's say they understand that Bill Gates is not after their is not helping you to be healthy. Let me see. This thread of mine. You should go read this. Bill Gates gives out vitamin A for free. He funds the development of hybridized, which they say hybridized or genetically modified. They could just be hybridized, but he's hybridizing plants to make more vitamin A to give to people. He gives pregnant women multivitamins with vitamin A in them, when vitamin A is the one thing that pregnant women should not get too much of. It's weird. Go check out this thread. It is in the pinned tweet. So, okay. Let me get back in here. The lagging, yeah, folks, the lagging in the picture, we're trying to fix it. Oh, here we go. Christopher 3D says the Canadian government warns people not to eat moose liver because it's full of accumulated cadmium. And that might be in my thread. I don't know if meese, I don't know. Mises. I don't know. I don't know if they were in the thread I had, but it totally makes sense. Like, we live in a toxic world, folks. There's no like place where the magical cows can live and they're not exposed to toxins, and of course they're always getting pure water, and there's no runoff going into the river or the lakes that they drink from. No, I mean, seriously, give me a break. Everywhere is toxic. It's just a matter of how much and what toxins. Fish and shellfish, just stop eating them. They are so toxic. I just, okay, let me tell you a funny little thing. I didn't do my research. I saw that Topo Chico mineral water. And, I thought, especially for my kids, I thought, well, the kids like sparkling water. So I like, it feels like something special, right? Sparkling water, if you can get away with clean sparkling water and it feels like something special to you and you can drink it instead of drinking soda garbage or other sugary garbage, I think it's a good trade-off. I think it's a good trade. So I got some for my kids. And then all of a sudden, I was on Instagram the other day, and it says the top 10 bottled waters you should not drink. I'm like, okay, I'll watch this. This looks interesting. And they're going through it. And then I find out Topo Chico contains PFAS, the forever chemical. And I was like, ew, okay. And I kind of been noticing, maybe this is why I thought it was the carbonation, but I thought maybe this is why the Topo Chico kind of turned it makes me feel a little bloated. And it's not just the carbonation. Like, I understand what carbonation bloating is, but the Topo Chico seemed to have some residual effects. And I was like, this is not feeling good. So then I start Googling Topo Chico and PFAS, and lo and behold, I find out that the Coca-Cola company bought the rights to Topo Chico in the US. And I thought that was just really so interesting. A coincidence that a maker of poison drinks would buy the rights to Topo Chico in the US, to distribute it in the US, and it's full of poisons. Anyway, so let's see. Here's our first super chat. RTJ family. Hi, doctor. New to love your liver. Binged 20 plus streams in the last week. Good job. If you're going to get hooked early, right? Took Accutane years ago, plus protocol survivor. And you say, I know, bad. Okay, marketing is a hell of a thing. I'm going to tell you folks something, is that generally the better the marketers, the worse their product. This is a thing I usually go by. Like, if I'm going to buy something, I'm like slick marketing, good people with good products could make slick marketing, but most of the time, the real technicians and the people who make really good stuff have terrible marketing, because their brain power goes into making their stuff, not into their marketing. There's also a lot of fear mongering from that protocol group. I tend to use the word protocol because I heard that the lead guy of it really likes to try to open up lawsuits against people who speak against his group. That's a weird thing that somebody would have to do, right? Anyway, have F3 fibrosis now. Question, can we use zeolite like charcoal? It helps symptoms similarly. I used zeolite in practice for a while. I was not impressed. Could it help? Sure. Is it charcoal? No, it's nothing. It's not charcoal. I moved to charcoal because one of the things I know about zeolite is, depending upon where you get the zeolite from, it can already be fully loaded up with toxic metals. This is real. That's what zeolite does, right? Zeolite grabs onto toxic metals. So if the zeolite, as it's coming up, was exposed to any toxic metals, it's already got a toxic metal bound up in it. This means one of two things. Now, I'm not saying zeolite is dangerous. I am saying that if you were to take zeolite and it's already loaded up with lead or cadmium or mercury or whatever that it was exposed to in the geological process, if you take that zeolite, in theory, the toxin should stay bound up in it. But the way adsorption works is if that zeolite with the toxic metal in it comes across something that is more toxic than what it's already holding, that has a higher energy level, if you will. Because like when you think of the periodic table, as you go down, the numbers get bigger, right? Think of that as like what I'm talking about, like the energy level. So it's like you're getting down into, radioactive things and really, really toxic things as you go down. Like that's what I mean by higher energy level. I'm not talking about like the woo-woo new age, like you gotta raise your energy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the protons and the neutrons and the electrons, and there's just more stuff, okay? If the zeolite comes across something of a higher energy level, it will kick out the toxin in it and replace it with the higher energy one. This is how adsorption works. This is the cool thing about it, but it also means you want to take empty stuff so it doesn't have things that it could contribute. It's either not going to grab onto anything as it goes through because it's already grabbed onto something, or it's going to trade it out. So like I said, I tried zeolite. I didn't see it do amazing things. If you feel better with it, that's fine. The stuff out there that's like the little spray or whatever, I've seen that really aggravate some people's symptoms. The stuff that they supposedly make in a lab, and they say there's all, and the funny thing about the spray zeolite stuff is they use the studies on the they say that it's different and it's all this stuff, and then they use studies that were done on normal zeolite to back up their stuff. Why aren't these giant MLMs companies that make so much money paying for studies on their stuff? And what I mean by studies is I don't mean some acupuncturist observing clients in his office. I don't mean that. I mean like a legit study. Clinical studies mean somebody did something in their office and said they did it. That's what it means. That's what clinical studies typically means. So anyway, can you use zeolite? Sure. I mean, in my opinion, okay, let me take that back. Could someone use zeolite? If they wanted to, I'm not against it. I like charcoal better because I know charcoal's empty. I know charcoal grabs onto the same stuff that zeolite does, and charcoal, I believe, grabs onto more of or if you want to call them organic toxins, like the forever chemicals and stuff like that. So, can you use both? Somebody could use both. Yes. Okay. Thank you for the super chat. Let me take this one down. Wait, how do we take that down? Hi, there we go. Got it. March Fast is saying probably 50% of all deaths are from modern medical malpractice. Well, let's just think about it. Pharmaceuticals are poisons. This is the thing you guys have to understand about herbal medicine and other supplements too. The stuff that is not an essential nutrient, right? Stuff that you don't have to live. If you take these things, you can be taking poisons and it makes your body do something. Taking poisons can make your body do something like reduce a symptom. You may get a honeymoon phase where your symptoms go down, but long-term, you're slowly damaging things, especially the liver. So then long-term, like think about it. When a lot of people, when they start meds, they don't have side effects, but the longer they take the meds, the more side effects they get because the toxicity and the damage to their liver is slowly accumulating. The same thing can happen from your supplements, folks, if you're doing the wrong things. Absolutely. I could go over the TUDCA thing. I might do that. Oh, I'm just going to say this. I've been having sensitive skin problems. Could it be that because I've been taking that 1 milligram of molybdenum, does that have anything to do with your skin? if you're taking 1 milligram of molybdenum a day, you better stop. In my opinion, I would stop immediately. If it were me, yeah, it could cause issues. Yes. Don't take the Thorne molybdenum on a daily basis. It will cause problems if you take it long enough. Let me give you 2 examples of people who did not, let me preface this. I used to use the 1 milligram Thorne molybdenum. You want to know what my instructions were to people? 1 pill a week. 1 pill a week. 2 people. The reason I got away from using the Thorne molybdenum, Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. A woman who was supposed to take 1 a week read my treatment plan as 1 per day. She took it 1 per day. A couple months later, she emails me. Back when I did email support, now I do live Zoom support in my office hours. We have 2 sessions a week for my clients, for my active testing and consultation clients. Anyway, she emails me and she's like, "Is it normal for the molybdenum to make people feel weird?" And I was like, "No." I said, "Tell me what you're taking." And she lists them out and she says, "Molybdenum 1 a day." And I was like, "Wait, what molybdenum are you taking?" She said, "The Thorne." I was like, "Okay, oh, whoa, stop ASAP. Don't. You're not going to," and I figured it out. I figured out how long she had taken 1,000, and I figured out how long that would, quote unquote, last her. Let's say she built it up in her system. I did the math as to how long my normal dose, my suggested dose, would have, what the equivalent would have been between front loading a bunch of molybdenum and then getting off of it versus, let's say, if she was taking the 150 micrograms a day. So I figured that out. I told her, "You don't take any more molybdenum at all ever until you're taking the smaller dose, and you're doing it. You don't take it until this time." And she did. Her symptoms went away. Next, I had another gentleman who did not read my treatment plan. He was low on molybdenum. I had him taking more than the basic dose. He took 2 of the Thorne molybdenum per day by his own accidental misreading of the instructions. Read the instructions, folks. Read the instructions. You can save yourself so much suffering by reading instructions, especially guys. Guys, read the instructions. Geez. He gave himself gout in 2 weeks. A funny thing about molybdenum is you can give yourself, you can, if you don't have enough of it, if you don't have enough molybdenum to run your uric acid enzyme pathways, you can get gout from a molybdenum deficiency. But if you take too much molybdenum, you can also give yourself gout. He gave himself gout in about 2 weeks. As soon as he told me, he came to me and he said, "Oh, Dr. Smith, I messed up. I messed up bad. I didn't read your treatment plan right, and I took 2 a day instead of 2 a week." I was like, "What happened?" Or actually, he said, "I just got back from the doctor because I was diagnosed with gout." And so he messed himself up. Read this. If you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. And the next thing that goes with this is not a game. And then the one that could go after that would be read the damn instructions. What I put on my treatment plans now is I put in brackets the amount of the mineral that somebody could take a day. So let's say somebody goes out thinking they're all smart and they're going to go buy a cheaper supplement that might be a megadose or something. Well, it says on the treatment plan, both of the types that I use, what to use, how many pills a day of that to take, but it also says in brackets the micrograms or the milligrams of what to take. So let's see. But yeah, the whole "this is not a game," this is where people, I have one guy, he was like, I'm not going to pay you just to tell me to eat. It was in my messages. He was like, I'm not going to pay you just to tell me how to eat low vitamin A. And I was like, okay, if you think that's all we're doing here, you go. You just go. I'm not here to drag people into this, folks. I don't care what people out there do. I am here as a guide to help people to help themselves to better health. I teach people how to fish. I don't make them fish. I don't fish for them. Okay. I turned the gain down a bit, Will. Is this better? I don't know if I'll see your chat until the end. Okay, let me go down. I'm still trying to look for the super chats. Hope I didn't miss any. Actually, there we go. No, there's, how did this thing, I swear these chats, I just passed the RTJ family one again, and I know I went straight down from it. This is so the YouTube thing will do that too. Man, I wish I could see all these chats. I just don't have time. How am I passing the RTJ family chat again? Like that's the... Somebody was asking, how long do you think it would take you to detox this? I have a video on the YouTube channel about the timeline of vitamin A detox with Grant, where we talk about it. But we're talking 2, 3, 4 years if you're doing it properly. Oh, this is good. Will said, I spoke with a guy last week who was balding, skin was leather, teeth yellow, gums receding, looks like he smoked, said his doctor said he was squeaky clean after 12 dozen eggs last month. What color are egg yolks again? Oh, they're yellow? What accumulates in your skin and gets damaged when you get too much sun? Oh, you mean like, wait, what's this? Hold on, there's a picture from... Okay, got that one. I got that one, Joe. Oh, there's Ramon. I hope you didn't pay again for the same one. Unless you wanted to, because I know you're a big... Ramon's a huge fan, which I appreciate. So Ramon's super chat. Broke 5th metatarsal 2 months ago. Got a... Oh, I remember this one now. Got a cast, not healing fast. They want to do surgery and put a screw on it. I don't. What's your take? I'm 38 years old. Okay. Well... Okay. Ramon has posted some stuff here before about alcohol. Well, the first thing I'll just say about this, Ramon, would be getting that alcohol out would help your healing a lot. Now, if the bone, now see, I'm okay. This is just, okay. What I'm talking about here is what I would do in this situation. If I would get multiple opinions, I would not just do one doctor's opinion. I would try to find other orthopods or other, maybe some a DO who still does like extremity manipulation, where or maybe a chiropractor who does extremities, like extremities being your hands and your feet and your arms and your legs, right? Not very many chiros or DOs adjust the extremities anymore. They just work on the spine and the neck, stuff like that, which is all the spine. So I would absolutely get some multiple opinions. Absolutely. Do this. If you're going to, folks, if you're going to spend time going in the conventional world, go to multiple of them, because some of them are less invasive and they're more conservative in their approaches. They don't shove drugs down you. They don't shove surgeries down you. Go and see multiple people. Now, if you saw multiple practitioners and they said that bone is not going to heal right if you don't do something to align it, then, if you had multiple people say that, then you might be like, okay, maybe we need to do the screw. What I would also be looking at is, can you get that screw out eventually? If the screw was going to come out eventually, that makes it less bad, less objectionable. But see, I can't have any idea of the situation here. So cold laser therapy or what am I trying to think of? Cold laser therapy, or the one that's class 4 as in class 1V, like the Roman numerals. Class 4 laser therapy is, think of it, there's like cold laser therapy and there's like laser surgery lasers, and then class 4 lasers are somewhere in the middle. They're kind of in the gray range because they don't cause, they're not cutting the skin, but they're a lot more powerful than cold lasers. So you may want to look into class 4. That's what you would look up, class 4 laser therapy in your area. That is the type of laser that I have here. I'm looking at it right now. I like it. So I would definitely, if it were me, I'd be putting magnesium topically on my foot every day, maybe doing magnesium soaks. That would probably be the best thing. I would be doing magnesium foot soaks like every day. And then definitely getting off the vitamin A, because vitamin A gets in the way of healing broken bones. I'd be maybe getting out in the sun to tolerance. Let me just go, let's do a peek. Let's go do a quick search. Let me see if they have anything on this. We got to get off here pretty quick. Zinc as a therapeutic agent in bone regeneration. Gosh, funny thing that zinc comes up again, isn't it? Zinc supplements and bone health. The effect of zinc on post-neurosurgical wound healing. So, yeah. I would definitely consider some zinc. And then make sure you're eating enough protein, because the scaffold, the what do we want to call it? The matrix of bone, the bone matrix is made up of protein. So we need enough protein to protect us from vitamin A as retinol binding protein. We need enough zinc to create the collagen matrix that is what holds the minerals in your bone, right? So think of the collagen matrix of bone. It's kind of like if you put up a wall, right? You don't just stack bricks on top of each other. You put mortar in there, and maybe even put rebar up the holes in the bricks to hold it together. Because if you just stack, I want you to think about this. This is the lunacy of bone density measurement. Think about this. If you were making a wall and you wanted the most brick density in the wall, you would just stack the bricks on top of each other, because that would give you the most bricks per square unit. You know, if somebody's measuring and some government inspector comes in and he's like, you have the most bricks per unit possible. And then a stiff wind comes along and blows over your wall. It was weak, but it was dense. Do you see how we don't want just, density is nice, but you don't want it just dense. You want it strong. But when they measure the bone density, they're just measuring the minerals. They're measuring the bricks. They're not measuring the collagen matrix of it. So, Will added more about that guy. He said the guy, after claiming he was healthy, then said he couldn't run and couldn't lift his arm over his shoulder. So let's see. So thank you, Ramon. I hope that helps. I would definitely just get multiple opinions. That's the biggest thing I can say about anything like this, is get multiple opinions. With the foot, let me give you a quick thing that I had recently, I got plantar fasciitis. Or what? Okay. I went to multiple practitioners. I either had a deep heel bruise, like bone bruise, in front of my heel, or I had plantar fasciitis. Nobody could figure it out. I was like, it has kind of characteristics of both. This doesn't make any sense. How did I get it? I was wearing my barefoot shoes, right? I'm trying to be, they're good for your feet. I'm wearing my barefoot shoes. I'm walking around the neighborhood. I stepped on like rocks. Our neighborhood has a bunch of people with rocks about this big that are pointy. And so if you step on them, let's say right in front of your heel in barefoot shoes that have like no padding, it goes right up into your heel, like right up into your plantar fascia. So nobody could figure out the diagnosis. I tried treatments for heel bruises. I did the laser. I did other things. I tried treatments for plantar fasciitis. None of it helped. So I'm going to say about your foot, like you got a cast. That's good. What I finally had to do was, I can't remember the name of it, Vibrio. I got some of these goofy shoes from the UK. They're made in the UK. I think it's Vibrio. They look like the worst, goofiest dad shoes, like those New Balance shoes. They looked like those. And they were padded. I mean, shit. I think the heel on them's like this big. And they supported the arches. And people said that this got rid of their plantar fasciitis. Like, well, they said it got rid of it. They put on the shoes and they were able to walk without pain. I was like, okay. I think I decided, I said, I think the biggest thing, and this plantar fasciitis went on for like a year. And I did the whole thing where you put the foot in the sling. I tried, you can imagine, I tried a bunch of things. And I started to realize that one guy on the internet said, you got to stop wearing these damn barefoot shoes or you won't heal. That was his specific thing. He didn't say not to wear barefoot shoes. He said, stop wearing the barefoot shoes or it won't heal. I was like, this makes sense. So I got these shoes. They supported the arch. They gave me some padding when I walked. And lo and behold, within a couple months, I don't have a problem anymore and I can wear my barefoot shoes again. I just had to give the tissue a break. And the barefoot shoes weren't giving it a break. For anybody who's going to be like, oh, it's, I have really great arches. I have very strong feet and ankles. I can spread my toes. Like, it's not a foot problem. It was a crashing down on the heel, however many steps a day problem. Okay. And I just had to relieve the pressure on it. So that's something, Ramon, if you're on your feet a lot, like, I'm not trying to tell you to be like, sit on your ass all day, but you might need to sit on your ass more just to give the foot or figure out, like, if you wear barefoot shoes, you might need more padded shoes for a while. Sometimes you just got to give the area a break, folks, so it can heal. Think about it this way. If your car breaks, if your car's not working, right, you have to take it off the road to get it fixed. You can't fix it while you're driving. So if you have a foot problem and you're walking on it all the time, like, you may need to, those silly little carts where you put your knee on it and you push yourself around like a little cart, right? Or you might need to get some crutches for a while. That was my idea about what I was going to do for my heel. I actually thought, do I really need to get some crutches and like not walk on my foot for a while to give it a break? That was like the extreme solution. But then I thought, why don't I, instead of doing all that, why don't I buy these $180 shoes? And they worked. So am I ever going to wear those shoes again? Not unless I get this problem again, but the problem I don't have anymore. So the screw, I really would do your best to not, I would do my best not to get a screw put in unless they told me they could take it out. I don't want metal left in my body, both for the EMF thing of it and for the toxicity of the metals, because you will absorb some of that. So let me go and look down here. I got to wrap this up real quick. I got to let Joe go on time. I kept Joe way too long the other day. People thought, Will commented, wow, a doctor telling me I might need to sit on my ass more. Amazing. Now, definitely That would be one way of taking the advice wrong, right? I'm going to tell you, for all of you out there, the biggest thing you can do, if you're, let's just say you don't feel well. Let's say you're unwell, you don't feel well, and you have trouble with exercise. Or if you're trying to lose weight, in terms of exercise, I'm going to tell you that the thing most people can work towards or potentially do that I know will help your process. Walking is stress relief if you do it correctly. So walking can help you to dump bile less. It also helps to use up extra calcium in your system. But walking 10,000 steps a day, you're very welcome, Ramon. Walking 10,000 steps a day. I'm not saying you may not start at that. You might start at 2,000 steps a day. The thing I used to really dislike about the work the home office and the work I'm doing now is I would sometimes, when I didn't do anything that day, I'd get like 2,000 steps a day. It was pathetic. And then you start going, oh, no wonder I might be gaining a bit of weight because you're not even moving your ass, right? So if you can, the form of exercise that can be the most helpful if you're not feeling good at the start is walking. I'm not a huge fan of treadmills, but if that's all you got, then that's all you got. You can walk around the parking lot at work. You can take the stairs. You could just walk. I'm not a huge fan of like a pedometer on your phone because then you got the EMF going into your hip and you're trying, it's just leave the phone behind. If you're going to go on a walk, leave your phone unless you have to take it. Get a break from that dang thing. Okay? But yeah. No, we all need to move. 10,000 steps a day is a great goal. If all you were going to do for exercise, if you decided that the only exercise you were going to do was walking and you wanted to use that as a tool to help you lose weight, most people say you want to lift weights a couple times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, and then try to get 10,000 steps a day every day. Well, I would say if you were a person who was you're like, I'm not going to lift weights, but I want to lose weight with exercise, then you're shooting for 15,000 steps a day. That's about an hour and a half of walking. Oh, Mr. Guy says walking helps me poop more. I usually don't poop enough. Walking, if you think about it, when people go and they're like, I want to do the rebound or the trampoline to help move your lymph. No, just go for a walk. If you had to stay home with kids or whatever, okay. You want to use a rebounder because you don't want to have a treadmill or whatever, that's fine. But, oh yeah, he said, Mr. Guy, not even specifically walking more, but just moving more in general. Yes. Squeezing your abdominals like exercise. Squeezing your abdominals like exercise will help squeeze. Think of your intestines a little bit like a toothpaste tube, and you're squeezing it, and it helps. Too intensive exercise could be helpful or not. Yeah, walking. Hope's talking about walking an hour a day. Walking an hour a day is. I wish I could walk more during my work days. I'm figuring it out. I actually just had to talk to people in my orbits and say exercise in the morning has to take priority over everything. Just about. People who exercise in the morning stick with it better. This is in the research because you build up a to-do list during the day. And then your to-do list gets overwhelming and you're like, I can't go exercise, or you think I got to have this much time to exercise, and then you leave 15 minutes late, or you're going to leave 15 minutes late and you say, I can't do it. I can't exercise now because I'm not going to have enough time. And then you don't do it. Exercise in the morning is how people stick to it the best. I'm not saying you can't do it at other times. I used to work out in the evening during college. I was good to go. As time went on, as I got more responsibilities, I realized the morning is the only time it's going to happen. So let me see. Final thoughts. Joe's like, final thoughts. Can we wrap this up? No, we're good. Okay, let's wrap. Joe's like, let me go. Anyway, thank you for doing all this, Joe. I really appreciate it. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap this up. If you want to find more, if you want to work with me directly or Nathan, go to nutritiondetective.com. If you want to find the Love Your Liver program, which is a do-it-yourself program, so people don't get confused and think that they get all day long, every day access to me, that's members.nutritiondetective.com. I do answer questions in the network and all that stuff. It's not, you're not hiring me as a practitioner if you go into the Love Your Liver program. That's just the way it is. Could you imagine if I had 2,000 people sending me messages all day long every day? I would never get to anything. If you guys are interested, we're going to start. If you're interested in the keystone minerals I talked about, or the lactoferrin, which is like our biggest selling product, that's all at the nutritiondetective.com shop. And otherwise, I will see you here next week. We're going to keep figuring out the bugs in the Streamlabs stuff. So forgive me if the video quality is low or the sound was off. Will, one last question. Did the adjustment I make help the sound at all? Hopefully Will didn't leave yet. Will, if you're still here, or if anybody who heard it when the sound is better. Okay, cool. Great. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, then I will see you all next week. Have a great week. And got to go do my inner circle inside the network now. Go do more video Q&As. Have a great day. Bye now.